Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson football channel. Today is a big one. It's Sunday in the Premier League. Man City versus Liverpool. A game that could be decisive in the Premier League title race. However, Arsenal have got other thoughts about this one. They are absolutely flying. Brilliant comeback win yesterday against Brentford. And then of course, we got to wait till Monday for Chelsea versus Newcastle. And then we got Leicester later on in the week in the FA Cup. Now, we got to say this, okay? It feels like an international break. You know when you see your team and you're not doing very well, there's a few bad results, bad performances. The last thing you want to do is see an international break because you sit with that feeling of mediocrity, average football, poor results for the whole journey of that international break. And this last week has felt like the longest week following a Chelsea fan that I can remember ever. I'm not going to lie to you. We've been poor. I've been feeling over it when it comes to Pochettino and watching Chelsea just play the same monotonous, boring football all the time. However, we're back tomorrow night against Newcastle and then we've got a chance to beat Leicester and make it to the semi-finals of the FA Cup. I want to talk about just how pivotal the next 7 days will be for Chelsea in this video. And I also want to touch upon the rumours that came out at the beginning of this week regarding Thomas Tuchel potentially wanting to come back to Chelsea. Do you go back to your ex? That's a question for another day, but I do know the answer to this question. Stakemate, the new betting app on the market, is officially the most beautiful betting app that I have ever seen. And right now, they're giving away a £5 free bet to those of you that join now without even having to put a deposit into your account. This week also, there was a brand new feature that launched called Squads. Now, Squads is something where you've got yourself an in-house group chat on the betting app with you and your mates. And as you can see here, I didn't really want to look through the fixtures this week because football's been doing my bloody nutting. So I go in and I can copy my friend's bet. And as you can see here, West Ham to win. I think that's a pretty good shout. City and Liverpool to draw. I think that's also a decent shout today. Chelsea to beat Newcastle because you don't bet against your own team. And then Bournemouth and Luton, it's going to be a boring draw. Later on in the week, going to copy this bet, stick the £2 that I've got in my account still onto it, bet is placed, and we rock and we roll. So if you guys haven't yet downloaded Stakemate, then I think you're seriously missing out. The link is in the description to take you to the App Store to get it downloaded today. You've got to be 18 plus. Currently, the app is only available in the UK, but this is fun. It's easy to use. And I would love for you guys to get involved. The new partner on the channel, I'm absolutely loving it. But let's move back and discuss Chelsea's upcoming week. Newcastle at home in the Premier League. Leicester at home in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup. To be quite honest, if you look at Pochettino's job at Chelsea this season from a bird's eye view, you separate what we've done in the Cups and you separate the league table and the league games and all of that stuff. In the league, it has been absolutely nothing, really. There's been no continuity. Get a good result, then you get a couple of bad ones, and you look at where Chelsea are in the table. It makes total sense. We're in 11th place in the Premier League. We are struggling to make it into the top half, let alone what we think we should be doing, which is competing for European places. You then look at the Cups. Chelsea have been at home in every single match that we've played in a domestic cup competition this season, except for the final at Wembley, where Chelsea put in the most feeble extra time display in the history of the competition to lose to a bunch of Liverpool teenagers, or whatever the narrative was. I'm over it now. Liverpool beat us in the Cup, and we have got Leicester in the FA Cup quarter-final with a chance to make it to yet another semi-final. So, bird's eye view. Pochettino's not doing a bad job in the domestic cup competitions, but it's that league form that is the serious problem. It's the lack of continuity. It is the lack of consistency and Chelsea's seeming inability to come up with any kind of good form. And that has also been a result of seeing a lack of patterns on the field and, to be quite honest, an acceptance that the way that we're playing is all right, and we're struggling, but we're doing the best that we can, and we've got to trust the process and believe in all of that nonsense that we have kind of got sick and tired of over the last 18 months of being Chelsea fans. So what do I think is the case this week? I do think that there is a world where Chelsea can win both of these games against Newcastle and Leicester, which I think would give Pochettino some credit, and I mean like credit in the bank in terms of like time. I think at the moment, it's very much a case of everybody is kind of tired, I guess, of constantly flip-flopping between a win and like, yep, let's back him, and then we lose or draw or play awful the next game, and it's like, well, I don't know why we ever backed him. We've wanted him gone forever. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's at this point of the season where this week is such a pivotal key week for Chelsea that by the end of this week, there could actually be nothing to play for. When it gets to the point where there's nothing to play for, I think the only obvious solution is to start building for next season. Which for me, if we get to the end of this coming week and we're out the FA Cup and we don't beat Newcastle, then I think it has to be Pochettino is gone. It's absolutely the case that if Chelsea lose to a championship side in an FA Cup quarter-final at Stamford Bridge, who lost to QPR in their own home ground a couple of weeks back, then that is game over for Mauricio Pochettino at Chelsea. But I also know that with Chelsea being at home form has been a lot better recently. We've been improving and we've been getting results at Stamford Bridge. So I always say this, I don't want to see Chelsea lose to see a manager sacked, and it's exactly the same now. I want to see us try and climb the table. I think we need to be in European football next season. And even if we beat Leicester and make it to the semi-finals of the FA Cup, actually winning the thing, when you see the teams that are left in the competition, Liverpool are still there, City are still there, United are still there. When you see that, you do doubt the fact that Chelsea can actually go ahead and win it, particularly the way that we played in that final at Wembley against Liverpool when they had half of their squad out injured. So, with that being said, if Pochettino doesn't make it through for this week or to the end of the season going into next season, then could Thomas Tuchel be the manager to take over at Chelsea again? I want to bring it back to when Tuchel was sacked because I feel as though people are so on the fence about this guy, and I think it's the right way to be because there are a couple of elements that we need to think about. We need to think about the way that Chelsea were playing, particularly in the Premier League, when he was actually fired. The performances were awful. It was very uninspiring, and I feel as though when I think about the way I see this, I think Thomas Tuchel, when it comes to that new manager bounce, it really is a thing. When he came in and took over from Lampard, he managed to revolutionise the positional play of certain players like Rudiger. I think he got the best out of N'Golo Kante as well, who was kind of going missing under Lampard. And I think as a result of doing that, he galvanised the Chelsea squad together, gave them some hope and belief, and squeezed that sponge to the point where it was like a desert by the end of it. Chelsea overperformed, and I think that squad winning the Champions League will always go down as one of the best achievements to join a club mid-season and do that. And then after that, I feel as though that squad understood that that was probably as good as it was going to be. And as a result, it kind of became like the squad probably realised they outperformed and it can't really get much better than that. And then Tuchel is trying to get the best out of some of the players there and then kind of falls out of love with some of them fall out of love with him. As a result, performances dwindle, results dwindle, and then a new ownership comes in. Tuchel kind of tries to steady the ship of the Roman Abramovich sanctions, new ownership coming in. And that's always going to be, for a club of Chelsea's magnitude, a near impossible task to just keep everything together. And then as a result of that, I think the on-the-pitch stuff also gets affected. You remember that 4-0 defeat to Arsenal, I think it was, in pre-season. Everyone's looking at it there and thinking, like, are these new owners going to like this guy or not? Turns out they flipping didn't. It didn't work. It wasn't going to work. So I just think Thomas Tuchel was such an incredible custodian for Chelsea during such a difficult time. Brings one of the most remarkable achievements that Chelsea Football Club have ever achieved during his time also. The question is this going to be, if it was indeed the case that Tuchel was to take over again at Chelsea from Pochettino? If Tuchel comes back, is this we're the new owners, we got it all wrong, we're sorry, we take it all back, we should have done better, and this guy wasn't that bad after all, and he's a proven winner. Is that the move? Or is it simply a case of Chelsea have kind of exhausted all of the options? We understand that the more yes men you hire, the more mediocrity you get. This is a ruthless business in the Premier League. The ownership, they might want someone who's just going to go along with this new plan, but if you're consistently finishing out of the European places, it's never a financial viable plan anyway for these people at the club. They're going to be losing money. So Chelsea need to do something. The question I have is Thomas Tuchel outdated? And I would go as far as to say that potentially right now, I think Tuchel tactically might well be outdated, particularly in a Premier League that is about to be forced to evolve again. And I think it will be young, upcoming, vibrant managers that come into the Premier League when Jurgen Klopp leaves and change the interface of what the league is. Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp have been the front runners. They have been the ones that everyone's trying to emulate, copy, be a part of. And I just feel as though Chelsea going back to Tuchel might be the wrong idea for Chelsea Football Club right now. I feel as though if we're going to go and change the manager again, it might just be worth going all in on one of these young managers to enter what will become a new era in the Premier League. People can't underestimate Klopp leaving Liverpool. Even if Xabi Alonso comes in, it's not just a like for like. It's going to be a big, big shift. And soon, I do think Pep at City, I don't think he's going to be there for any more than 2-3 more seasons. So, I think Chelsea, when it comes to the next manager, we've got to try and get ahead of the curve. Not necessarily go back. I still don't know who that manager would be. That is the hardest part right now of being a Chelsea fan. It's like, you're looking at it and you're like, I'm not happy with Pochettino, but I also don't know where to go next. That's the problem right now. But anyway, let me know your thoughts on the whole Pochettino current talk. Tuchel returning. I do love the bloke, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I just don't think it would work. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Download Stakemate, link in the description. Come on, you Blues.